I'm going to start here in Business Central where I've already got the Varis extension installed in. The extension is available in the Microsoft App Source. It's currently in private preview, so there's a Contact Me button if you search it up there. Once we go general available, that will just be a direct install from the App Source. Once you install the plugin into Business Central, you go through a fairly short assisted setup wizard, which will register your Business Central instance with the Varis Marketplace. And after that, users can search up Varis, launch the marketplace, and start shopping. Now that's opened up Varis in a new tab in my browser, and it's signed on my test user here, Alicia. Again, single sign-on into the marketplace. There's no additional setup required on the Varis side. You can see here that I'm shopping in the context of the Cronus USA company, which is my Business Central company. The Varis marketplace is designed to be a very familiar experience, similar to business consumer e-commerce sites. So on the left-hand side, you can actually browse through the taxonomy and select the categories you want to shop from. So for example, you can see some common ones like janitorial sanitation, maintenance, repairs and operation, and office supplies, as well as the more common way most people do is just through search, which I'm going to do here. So I'll come up and I'm just going to search for a propane heater. And in this case, I've got 9 results matching that query. If there was more, you could use these filters along the top to sort of filter down to a smaller subset of results. But in this case, I can browse through all the results. And I'm going to scroll down here, and this is the one I want to buy, this 30,000 to 60,000 BTU propane heater. If there was multiple options and you wanted to see the difference between the two or three of them, you can actually select to compare and then compare them in a table view. But for this one, I'm just going to open up the detail page. And so the detail page, the product page, shows some additional information about the item. You can come into the additional information, things like the manufacturer's part number, who the manufacturer is, the supplier. I mentioned earlier there's 3 suppliers into the marketplace. This specific item is being offered by MSC. And since this is the one I want to buy, I'm going to go ahead and just add it to my cart. And up in the top right, you can see I've now got one item in my shopping cart. I could go to the cart page if I wanted to, say, remove an item or change quantity for some of the items in my cart. In this case, I'm only buying the one thing, so I'm just going to go directly to checkout. And in checkout, I need to enter a little bit of information. So for example, I first need to select my shipping location. Varis, as part of that assisted setup, any locations that you've got defined in Business Central will be automatically synced down into Varis. As well, users can define their own locations. So if somebody needs to buy something and have it shipped to their home, within Varis, they can actually go and define their own their home location, and it will appear in this list as well. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to ship it to the office location. I can say who I want it delivered to. Alicia Kane is our test ID. I'm just going to leave that there. And then for each supplier, in this case, I only have one item on in my purchase requisition, and it's from MSC. So I can select the shipping speed. MSC offers a standard shipping of 3 to 5 days or an expedited of 1 to 3. But if you had items from multiple suppliers, you would see other suppliers here, and you could select different shipping speeds for each supplier. So we'll just continue. Now I can enter in a requisition title. We'll just say heater to keep employees warm. And in the section, I can see the items I'm buying, where each one's being delivered to, the shipping options for each one. I get a little subtotal here of the item, estimated taxes, shipping, and the total. In this case, this item exceeds the free shipping threshold from MSC for standard shipping, so I don't have to pay shipping charges. And then the credit card, which I've already got added onto this account. And that's it. So at this point, I'm just going to click Submit Request. And what it's doing is it's creating that purchase request. and it's sending that purchase request up to Business Central. And so at this point, from a buying experience point of view, I'm done. The purchase request is in Business Central, and if there's an approval workflow set up on Business Central, it's going to go through that approval workflow. If there isn't an approval workflow set up, or say it's below the threshold for that approval workflow, it's going to just be automatically approved in Business Central and come back down into Varis for fulfillment. In this case, I do actually have an approval workflow set up in Business Central. So let's close out of Varis and take a look at that. So we're back in Business Central. I've already got the Varis purchase requests view bookmarked here, so I'm just going to use the bookmark to open it up. And you can see there's the purchase request that I submitted, cart 49388, heater to keep employees warm. We can open that up. And you can see all the typical information, the total amount, taxes, shipping, the line items. So in this case, the propane heater from MSC, where it's being shipped to, which was the address that I selected during checkout. And you can now see the status is pending approval. So at this point, I'm going to switch over into my other browser where I've got the test user signed in who's set up to be the approver for this purchase request. Okay, I'm signed in here in my other browser, as I mentioned, with that approval user. And if I scroll down, you can now see this user has one request to approve. So I'm going to open that up. And there is the purchase request that we just placed for the heater. Similarly, I can open up that record, see all the same information that we just looked at for the purchase request in Business Central. So we're not going to take a look at that here. Instead, I'm just going to go back, and I could approve, reject, delegate, or I could add a comment. One thing just to call out here, the approval workflow is the Business Central approval workflow system. It's not built specific for Varis. We've just enabled Varis purchase requests to be a document that can go through the Business Central approval workflow. So in this case, I'm just going to approve it. And at this point, that purchase request has been approved. It's now being sent back down to Varis. Varis is going to take the purchase request, create a purchase order from it, send the purchase order to MSC for fulfillment, and send that purchase order back up to Business Central. So now let's take a look at what that looks like in Business Central from that purchase order. In this section, I'm going to show you a completed purchase. So this is a different product. In this case, we're going to take a look at an order that's actually been fulfilled. So you can see the ship notice that comes back from the supplier when they ship the items, which then generates a Varis invoice, which gets put up into Business Central as well, and the Business Central purchase order. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from the Varis purchase order. So I'm going to open up the Varis purchase orders view. And this is what gets generated from an approved purchase request. I'm going to search for PO 58. So here's Varis PO 58, placed back on March 8th. We'll take a look at that, open that one up. Was an item from Office Depot, some Clorox wipes. You can see here all the information, like when it was placed. It links back to the original request. So in this case, it was the request ID was cart 00081. The shipping amount, tax, total amount. There's only one line item in this order. But what I want to show here is all the related documents. So they're all tied together for full traceability. So when you go through the assisted setup for Varis, you can specify whether to have it automatically create Business Central purchase orders for every Varis purchase order. I've got that set up here. So if I click on this one, it will actually take me and show me the Business Central purchase order that was created for this order. In this case, you can see it's also linked back to the Varis purchase order ID, as well as to the Varis invoice. So invoice 44, which we're going to take a look at in a minute. You can, as part of the assisted setup, I mentioned when you turn on that automatic creation of Business Central purchase orders, you can configure how you want the line items from a Varis purchase order mapped into the Business Central one. In this case, we're using just GL account mapping and the GL account 61400. You can customize that there. The other thing to call out here is the vendor. So when you're placing purchases on Varis, those are the suppliers. I mentioned Office Depot, MSC, and Buy Supply being the three that are there right now. When it creates the Business Central purchase order, it needs a vendor for that purchase order. So if one doesn't exist, it will automatically create that vendor. And in this case, it's linked it to the Office Depot vendor record. Let's close that. And once the supplier ships the items, they send over a shipment notice. So you can see the shipment notices in Business Central. So you can see here those Clorox wipes, quantity of 1, were shipped by UPS, and there's the UPS tracking number. It was shipped on March 9th with a delivery date of March 10th. And when the ASN comes in to Varis, that then triggers the creation of the invoice. The invoice also is posted up into Business Central. Here you can see we've got invoice 44. So if you remember back when we were looking at the Business Central purchase order, it was linked to this invoice. And very similar information to what we've seen on the other documents, the Clorox wipes, all the totals and stuff. Now in this case, because we're supporting credit card payment initially for the private preview, this invoice has already been prepaid by that credit card that was captured during checkout. And that is the demo for the Varis integration with Business Central.